WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. Thank you for tuning to WVTC Radio Detroit and the Community Bell Show with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner Edna Bell. Stay tuned for insightful information Detroiters will find valuable. Text a friend and tell them to watch with you for news you can use. And now, your host, Edna Bell.
Hello, hello, hello. It's 4 o'clock on Monday, so it must be the Community Bell Show. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being with us again. We are so excited to have you viewers here because we got some really good information for you today. Special guest, my friend Harvey Santana. And I'm gonna do something special. Harvey, you're gonna introduce yourself because I want you to not say what you're doing now. I want you to go back.
Okay.
When you were a state representative and when you were with the Navy or Marines you were in?
I was in the Navy.
The Navy, yes. So go all the way back and tell us. Tell us about
All right,
Harvey.
so I'll give you my quick biography. I was born and raised in the city of Detroit, attended Detroit Public Schools, graduated in 1990 from Chadsey High School. 2 weeks after graduation, I entered the United States Navy. I did 4 years there. I'm a Persian Gulf War veteran, and I was a search and rescue swimmer. So if you ever seen the movie The Guardian, the guy that jumped out of a helicopter into all the water and rescued people, that's what I did in the Navy. And so after that, I came home, got a job at a hotel, the Ritz-Carlton as it was back then, worked my way through college for the first 2 years, left the Eastern, got my bachelor's degree, fell in love with Sylvia Santana, and got married. So a couple of years later, got my master's degree from there, and entered public service by working on the Census 2000 campaign back then, and went worked for Camp Cockrell as a member of his staff, and then I became an urban planner, and then I did that for about 10 years. And then when I finished that, I ran for office. Became state representative of the 10th district, and then after redistricting, it became the 9th district. So when I was term limited out, I became a Wayne County sheriff, worked in the Wayne County jail for about 2-3 years now. I've been associated with the sheriff's department since 2015 as a reserve officer. And so now I'm a lobbyist, and I work for an organization that does work on victims' compensation, and we're looking at over-incarceration and how to address those issues in the criminal justice system.
That was great. You did it. And
I've done this before.
You talking about that. But I want you to know, when I first met Harvey, I was chair of the 14th Congressional District, and Harvey came to me and said, I'm going to be a state representative. You need to support me. Hello, I'm Edna Bell, and who are you? I'm Harvey Santana, and I'm going to run for office, and I'm going to win. I said, okay.
I was confident.
Yes, you were. And well, you should have been, because you ran and you did win.
Yeah, we literally ran. We ran from house to house. I was hitting 40 doors an hour back then for like 12 hours a day.
I remember. But that was a good thing, because you ran, you won, and you represented your district extremely well. So we're awfully glad to have had you there. Real pleased about that. One of the main subject for today, everybody, is redistricting. And in a minute, we're going to tell you what that really means. But I want to go back to something I've been talking about for the last 2.5 years, and that is the census, because redistricting is really a result of the census. Remember, I told you, if you don't fill those census forms out and get counted, it was not going to be good for Detroit and Michigan. Well, guess what? You didn't fill all the forms out, and guess what? Not good. We lost people, but we didn't win people. We didn't get new people in the state, and it's based on the state population. So we're going to lose a congressional seat in Michigan. So we'll go from 14 congresspeople to 13 congresspeople. But on top of that, we lost people in Detroit. So that presents a whole nother dynamic. And that's what Harvey's going to talk about, because Harvey's real good. He knows this stuff left and right. And so, Harvey, you're on. Talk about redistricting. Tell the people what redistricting is and how it impacts their lives.
Wonderful. Well, so you understand, in the United States Constitution, it says that every 10 years, the state shall hold their census. And so what will happen is that we have to count how much population we have so we can determine how much representation we have in the Congress. And so the U.S. Constitution allows the states to do their own redistricting and handle it that way. And so what happened in 2018, if you recall, there was a ballot initiative by this organization called Voters Not Politicians, who were well-funded. I don't know where they got their money from. I have my suspicions, but they were well-funded. They ran television ads, they had billboards, they had mailing, they had radio ads, and they were telling everybody that politicians should be drawing their own legislative districts. And so people fell for it. People went with it. And there were many of us in the legislature said, that's not good. Now, you know how this works, because you've gone through redistricting before. Everybody gets mad when they don't get the neighborhood they want or get cut off from this area. And so you blame it on gerrymandering. And so that's what we did, because that's politics. And so what ends up happening when you look at the districts today and the way they're cut up, you'll see some district that goes from the Grosse Points all the way on down to the river, Trenton, Southgate, those types of areas. And none of them cut through Macomb County. None of them cut through Oakland County. Some of them take up some Western Wayne County municipalities. But what happened back in 2011, I believe it was, when we went through redistricting and we had suffered population loss in the city of Detroit, we feared that we were going to lose what was called majority minority districts. What majority minority districts is a policy, a practice that says if you have a majority minority district, then you have to strive to protect that majority minority district until you cannot. Okay. So what happened back then is that we had to reconfigure all of these districts because we had population loss. So your geography becomes bigger. Okay. You have to spread the net out farther in order to capture more population. And so that's how you got these districts that did this in order to meet that category of majority minority. Now, the Black Caucus took it to court, and what we discovered is that the Voters' Rights Act applies to the Congress, but not to the state legislature. So what ended up happening is we ended up having 17 of those seats in the Senate and then in the House. Now, fast forward to 10 years from now, we lost more population. And you have to understand why we lost population. And it's a combination of things. First, a lot of people didn't want to fill out the census form, in part because I think they weren't educated about it enough. I'll be the first one to criticize. I didn't really see a campaign. I didn't really see the rallies. I didn't really see the effort that you would think would have gone with a census campaign. That aside, the other thing that people don't seem to want to accept is that we experienced a lot of financial upward mobility. People made a lot of money and people were successful in the last 10 years. And you know as well as I do, people move wherever their money will take them. So now that's how you got Detroiters that are now in Macomb County, out in Farmington, Rochester Hills. You got them out in Canton, Plymouth. And so people left the city for those reasons. And you also had this influx of new people coming in to the city, mostly into the downtown areas. And there was this belief that downtown population boom was going to balance out the population loss that we experience in our communities. Not the case. And so now the city's in a situation, well, the state's in a situation where they pass voters, not politicians. There was language that said you have to consider something called communities of interest. Now, everyone's going to ask themselves, what is a community of interest? I don't know. It is whatever you want it to be because there's no details to what it is. So I'll give you
no universal definition of what it is.
No, ma'am. So I'll give you a couple of, I guess, practices that this independent commission has been using to determine what a community of interest is. So if you live by the water and people like to go boating and these neighborhoods are known for that, that's a community of interest. If you have a neighborhood of LGBTQ who say that they want to be represented, that's a community of interest. If you have, pick something, people of a certain race or ethnicity that live in a certain area, well, that's a community of interest. So this is where it gets weird. As I've been watching this independent commission that I think it's the makeup is 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, I think 3 independents or something like this. They hired this lawyer and a consultant to guide them through the process. Now, you know as well as I do, policy staff is there to give you insight, but at the end of the day, you make the decision. Mm-hmm. You have to know what to believe and what not to believe, what you can apply and what you cannot apply, what is practical and what's not. And what I've been seeing is that this consultant and this lawyer have been leading them by the nose. Vote this way, do it this way, do this, do that. Half the time, these independent commissioners have no clue what they're talking about when it comes to Detroit neighborhoods, when it comes to Wayne County, when it comes to other areas. And they will tell you, I don't know anything about this neighborhood or about the city of Detroit. But you're the one drawing the lines.
Why didn't you learn something? If you know you didn't know, go learn something.
So I can't tell you how many times I yelled through the laptop. I want to jump through the laptop and start redrawing the lines myself. So there are times where they cut, for instance, Grandmont and Rosedale, they cut it in half. No, they go together. They'll cut Grandmont 1 from Grandmont 2. No, they go together. At one point, they cut Warrendale, the neighborhood I live in. They cut it from Warren south, left us with 3 precincts, and then put us with Dearborn, and then the rest of Warrendale was up. So what has happened, and I think this is fair to say, Detroiters aren't the only one that's going through this. Macomb County's angry. Oakland County's angry. Western Wayne County's angry. Everybody's angry because what they've also done. And here's where I think the real challenge is going to happen. So in order to get the numbers and get the seats the way they wanted to, what they're doing is they're cutting municipal lines. So if they want to cut 8 Mile and go into Macomb County to grab population to make the numbers work, then that's what they're doing. Or they'll go from Detroit into Macomb and Oakland County. So now you got someone potentially that's going to represent Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne County all in one House district. And so on, so forth, and so forth.
And those certainly are not communities of interest, like communities of interest.
So here's where I become very social and political. Why do people live where they live? Because you like the neighborhood, because that's all you can afford, because you like the scenery. People make choices about where they want to live, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have no desire to represent Detroit, live in Detroit, you don't even want to go to a hockey game, you don't want nothing to do with the city of Detroit, you moved way up to Macomb County, why are these people drawing that person into a district with someone from Detroit? So now what will happen, and you know how politics works, you have potentially 16 districts that all cut into Detroit. So your Detroit caucus is going to be potentially made up of people from Macomb County, Oakland County, Western Wayne County. And you might get 4 or 5 people who are actually from Detroit in that caucus dictating policy in Lansing on what is and what is not good for the city of Detroit. That's like me coming and telling you how to cook.
All right.
That's like me telling you how to come in and rearrange your furniture. It's not going to work. I'm not from your house. So what you have and what you'll find in Lansing is that fatigue is real on certain issues. Like there'll be times when we work on a lot of issues over and over and over. We get tired of working on those things. And so you end up having voter fatigue because you don't want to work on it. You know how many times during the Detroit bankruptcy or the Detroit Public Schools bankruptcy or anything dealing with Detroit, there's Detroit fatigue that sets in.
Yes.
That was us in the Detroit caucus trying to push in our Democratic caucus these Detroit things. And we were being told by our colleagues, I got Detroit fatigue and I'm tired of supporting Detroit. I got my own issues in Macomb County. Well, is that the same person that's going to now represent us under these districts? All right, how much voter fatigue are you going to have? The other thing, a lot of people don't understand the role of a state rep or a state senator in Lansing and why I'm opposed to the way this independent commissioners were drawing these lines. It takes a hell of an individual to represent Detroit because on any given day, you're getting issues that are not related to government. Do you have a grant? I have a leaky roof. Do you know where I can get resources because I need a car? Can you identify a grant because my garage is falling down? You'll do so much social work as a Detroit representative that it takes away from your legislative responsibility. So you have to have good staff that understands senior citizens issues, poverty issues, the criminal justice issue. Can you imagine someone from Birmingham giving these calls? They don't want to deal with that. They seriously don't want to deal with it.
They won't deal with it.
Or can you imagine someone from, I don't know, Macomb County, northern Macomb County, getting a call saying, hey, my cousin, he's been in prison at MDOC and he's having issues and I need someone to investigate it. Different attitude towards it. Absolutely. I would get those calls weekly. My wife gets those calls often, and you have to know how to call the ombudsman, have a relationship with the ombudsman, and do some fact finding to find out what your constituents' issues are and what's going on in MDOC. And so when you look at all of the diaspora of issues that encompass being a representative of Detroit, it's much more than going up to Lansing, giving a speech, voting, trying to secure money in the budget, and then going home and throwing a parade. You're working 80 hours a week nonstop, trying to get people groceries, trying to get people furniture, trying to get people a car so they can go to work. You do all this social work.
Turned back on, trying to get the heat and gas turned back on. I mean,
that's weekly. Yeah. People don't understand that. So when you're looking at all this redistricting stuff, we have a serious problem because, in Detroit, in an open primary, the whole neighborhood runs. You'll get 16 people on a ballot. Mm-hmm. So what Oakland or Macomb County people will do, they'll get smart. They'll one person.
Yep.
So they'll lock up all their Oakland, Macomb County support while Detroit's fighting it out in the primary, cutting each other up. Yep. Because we can't coalesce around one individual. Yep. Now, the other political aspect of this, the fundraising. You done took a state house seat in Detroit that basically costs anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 to run an effective campaign. You've jacked up the price to 3 times that now, because now you got to compete with people from suburbs that are more well financed than we are to run these elections, and very few people know how to do an effective level of fundraising to keep what is called a temporary job. Right. and so there's a lot here that people don't really understand in terms of the ramifications that go into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it all goes back to what? The census. It all goes back to the census that didn't get the proper support from a lot of people, was cut short. We had a COVID epidemic, a pandemic that impacted it. Then it was cut short by the former president. So all those things impacted those numbers, and now we're seeing the results of that impact. And people are not in tune to what's going on, and somehow we've got to get them in tune to what's going on, that this is going to impact them directly. Let's use a real good example. Sylvia Santana is a senator for the west side, I call it Midwest side of Detroit, but she's got Detroit, Dearborn, what else does she have?
Melvindale.
And Melvindale. But Detroit is the biggest part of her district.
Correct.
Let's use hers as an example. If this current map stays, she will have Detroit, Melvindale.
Dearborn. No, it'll be Detroit, Dearborn Heights, and a section of Southwest Detroit. So from the Chadsey High School area all the way on down to like Central Verner.
So how about that?
So, and what's interesting, and this is the thing that aggravates me about this commission. They pick and choose what a community of interest is. So there was one example where one of the commissioners was adamantly opposed of splitting Canton Township 3 different ways because they had a community of interest, which was the Asian community. Okay, fine. And that's a federally protected class. Okay, you got something there. But then when it came to the Hispanic community, the Black community, they spared no expense cutting you this way, that way, this way, that way, and nobody cared. And I'll be even more critical. Our representation on that commission from Detroit, the folks that got their name pulled out of the hat, they've been exceptionally horrible.
I understand that they didn't even attend some of the meetings.
Half the time they didn't want to go to work, and then when they do go to work and they're trying to draw a map, they have no idea how the city of Detroit works. So, Ms. Bell, I'm going to be honest with you. I voted against this Voters Not Politician. I'm going to tell you why. people don't understand, I think, what politicians do and the way this thing happens. Every 10 years, what will happen, depending on who's in charge, you got 110 state house seats.
Mm-hmm.
The Republicans will come to the Democrats and say, okay, look, y'all got about 40 safe Democratic seats. Go draw your lines. Go figure out your family feuds. We got about 40 safe Republican seats, meaning you're never going to elect one person from the other party.
Yeah.
Those races get decided in the primary. We'll go do our seats. You go do your seats. And then what we'll do is we'll come together and figure out about the ones in the middle that we're going to argue about.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then when people don't get what they want, then they blame the other side for gerrymandering. But if Democrats are in charge, they do it to Republicans. And when Republicans are in charge, they do it to the Democrats. Mm-hmm. Get out, vote, and get the people you want in office. You won't have that problem next time. But be that as it may, this commission is getting, I think, wrong legal advice from this lawyer who's using an obscure law from some Supreme Court case in Florida that gives him the justification that says you can go from 55% majority minority to like 31%. Meaning,
when did 31% ever get to be anything a majority?
You know, you could. I mean, they're just inventing these things, and I don't understand the process that they're going through. But the thing that troubles me is that these commissioners are not independent. Now, I'll give you another fact. When Wayne County came up to be drawn, they started in Dearborn Heights, because the community of interest was the Arab Muslim community. Okay, fine. I get it. I understand it. Being from the area, you understand how the community works. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to have a shot at possibly electing an Arab American to the state Senate. Okay, no argument. But then what ends up happening is that they realized they didn't have enough population to support, one Senate seat for Dearborn Heights. So they needed to go into other areas to find population. So they went over to Inkster, and the fight that they had with Inkster was no, hell no, because Dearborn Heights and Inkster have a long history of not getting along, and that would be horrible of putting them into the same district.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. That's a bogus argument. The United States of America has had a long history of not getting along with each other.
Yes.
So don't alienate a city because some people don't like those people. I mean, it has to work. So then what they did is, okay, we don't want to be with those black people over here. So let's go up into Detroit and be with those black people over here. I mean, this is literally what they were saying in this commission. And our folks are just sitting there looking at them like, spaced out.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. I'm just, oh my God. Anyway, so they go and they started reconfiguring. And what they started to realize is that they started this thing off wrong. What they should have done is worked from the east west. They should have started off from the Grosse Pointe, capturing all the Grosse Pointes and moving east, making a Senate district. Going along a mile, going further west, making another one. And you keep going that way. And then you capture the population of Western Wayne County. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to cut across 8 Mile. They wanted to go into Washtenaw County. They wanted to go to Oakland. And they created this big mess. And so now you got some districts in Detroit, now the Senate districts, that they go from the 8 Mile and they take some precincts along 8 Mile. They go all the way up to Utica. They got one district that goes from Jefferson Chalmers, Belle Isle, all the way up to 14 Mile.
Oh my.
They got another one that goes up to M59. It is unbelievable how they drew that. Then, because the Grosse Pointes had an organized email and organized communications process, they got on the internet and started submitting their comments that we don't want nothing to do with Detroit. So they created this district that goes along the Grosse Pointes up to St. Clair Shores, wraps around Selfridge Air Force National Guard Base, wraps around to, I think, Marysville somewhere, and on the border of Canada. So it's like this big Captain Hook.
Oh, my gosh.
But, I mean, is that not gerrymandering? It was not the purpose of this to avoid this kind of thing?
Oh.
And listen, what does Grosse Pointe have to do with Selfridge Air Force National Base? it's beyond me. It's beyond me. So that's what's going on there. Now, I will tell you this. All hope is not lost because now we have a public hearing that's coming up this Wednesday at 12 noon at the TCF Center. I'm going to say it again. 12 noon this Wednesday at the TCF Center.
Now, aren't there two? Isn't there one in the evening also?
I believe so. I don't know what the time is, but be that as it may.
I was at 5. There's one at 12 and there's one at 5. And I think the one at noon is virtual, isn't it? And the one in the evening is in person?
I you know what? I don't know. I just know that I have to be there. But be that as it may, Detroiters need to be in there and they need to be mad.
Yes. Yes.
They need to be in there and they need to be mad because our representation is bad and they need to be shooken up. And I think some of the representation that's on that independent commission, they have their own ulterior motives of what they want, and they have one job and one job only to take care of these people or take care of these people. After that, I'm done. They need to be shooken up. They need to be woken up because they don't understand. These guys are appointed politicians, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And see, as a politician, there are certain boundaries you cannot go beyond. You can't say things. You can't do certain things. You can't be in certain places. If not, you're going to experience a hell of a lot of scrutiny. These people have just been operating in this room by themselves, and they haven't come out to the public to hear the frustrations of the community in a way that we know how to demonstrate the frustration of the community. And they need to see it. They need to feel how frustrated people are because that will shake them up and make them go back and rethink this whole thing.
Well, I certainly hope so because I said on the conference call we had yesterday about this, and the Zoom meeting we had yesterday evening with Ed Sopolis, who is a person who has done redistricting for 40 years practically, that nice time is over. You need to show up and show out.
Listen, people always say, why is Santana acting so crazy up in Lansing? Because every now and then they got to know this is about business.
You got to show up and you got to show out. You can't be nice on this one because whatever this is going to last for 10 years. It's going to impact you for at least the next 10 years and probably longer than that. So you can't have a city of Detroit, the largest city in the state, could possibly not have one black elected official in the state house.
We went from 17 majority minority districts to 0.
Yes.
From 17 to 0. That is unconscionable to me. Now, I get it. People will say, well, that doesn't guarantee you get, a black person in office. That's not the point. The point is majority minority district. We know in Detroit, people like Marion Mahaffey, Mel Ravitz. We've elected Rashida Tlaib. We've elected me, Gabe Leland, Burton Leland. We've elected Sheila Cockrell. We've elected non-minority people to office for decades. Okay, that's not the issue. The issue is you have a majority minority district so that people of color can have an opportunity to elect someone that looks like them, represents them, understands them, and comes from that community.
Yeah, okay? That's the issue, that represents them, understands them, and comes from that community. And or green that understands them and comes from that community.
And the thing is people don't understand it in Lansing sometimes. You have to really understand what it is to be a Detroiter. When you knock on these doors, you knock on a door because there's 3 votes sitting in the house somewhere, and there's somebody, and you look at the house that's got a blue tarp on the roof. You know that the minute you go in there, you ask those individuals to support you in your campaign, there's going to come a laundry list of things that have to come with that. Can you help me with the roof? Can you help me with groceries? I have trouble with the Department of Health and Human Services.
My water bill, my DT, all of that.
All of that comes with it. And there's a certain sense of responsibility that comes to you as a Detroiter that says, and someone who's seeking public office, I have to help this person. And this is my job now.
But not only that, you understand someone from another community is not going to understand what those people are talking about. They will look at them like they're from space. Like
I'll
I
give
don't
you.
know anything about roofs leaking and
I'll
water
give
bills
you.
not being paid. I don't know. I don't know about those things.
I'll give you two clear examples. So, two Senate districts. One, Senate District 1, I believe it is, Stephanie Chang. She represents what I think is the most complicated Senate district in Michigan. Here's why. You go from having an international bridge to a tunnel, to having another bridge being built, to having Marathon Oil, to having contamination issues of land, to having immigration issues, to having multiple language spoken in your district, to having communities that are filthy rich, or communities that are anti-Detroit. And you can go from a meeting that has something about immigration to something about economic development all in one night.
Mm-hmm.
Sylvia's district, as an example, she has Brightmore. You can go from extreme poverty to go into Dearborn and have extreme wealth. Like when we went knocking, I didn't know some of these neighborhoods existed. And when I looked at the home, like, damn, who lives here?
The houses are incredible. Yeah.
And you do that all in one day. And so to understand what it is to be a Detroiter, you have to understand and represent these districts. You have to have an ability that you're born into with representing Detroit and the issues that we face on a daily basis, to then going into these other communities and saying, okay, I understand where they're coming from. But you're going from communities, and Coleman Young said it, I'm surrounded by hostile suburbs. That hostility has not stopped.
No, it
is not.
It has not.
And it continues, and it's going to continue, I think. And my fear is that it gets worse when people from outside of Detroit start representing Detroit, and they get tired. We're like, I'm so tired of Detroit. Well, why you run to represent us?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So people need to be ready for these meetings on Wednesday. There is still time to comment on the drawing of these districts. You have until November the 2nd, I believe.
Yes.
To comment and tell them what you think about these districts and why you think that. And it's easy. There is an article today that Ed Sopolis wrote in the papers, and Ed is a well-known pollster and redistricting person and all of that for 40 years. And he talks about redistricting and the facts about redistricting, gerrymandering, racial gerrymandering, regression, and all of those things that this commission was supposed to not do. And they're doing exactly what they were supposed to not do.
And the problem that I have with this voters not politicians is when you really think about the timeline, I think that they figured out there's a way to get progressives elected at the expense of black votes. And so when you look at all of these maps that are being drawn, it favors the suburbs. And so now they're working towards this goal of electing white liberal men at the expense of black votes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I'm going to say it, the progressives, they love black votes, but they hate black leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably get in trouble, but get in line. The thing about it is that
it won't be new for you, Harvey.
but
this might be the first time nor the last.
but I want them to prove me wrong. I want them to prove me wrong, because at the end of the day, we have some serious issues in Detroit that are only understood by Detroiters who deal with this on a daily basis, and to have a bunch of outsiders representing us on some of these complicated issues where race is going to be an issue, cultural difference is going to be an issue, economics is going to be an issue. You have issues with the criminal justice system, with poverty, single parent homes. You have problems with
education. Think about education.
Education. I mean, Ms. Bell, I remember when we were having the DPS debate.
Yes.
And people could not understand why the Detroit public school system had fallen by the wayside. And it takes a seasoned Detroiter who's been here for forever to really understand the ins and outs of the conversations, to educate Republicans who don't know nothing about urban, don't know nothing about minority, but yet they're being asked to vote in support of something.
Yes.
And so what myself and Sherry Dagnogo and Bert Johnson and so many other representatives and senators did is we took it upon ourselves to give them tours of Detroit, to show them the day-to-day realities of Detroit, to explain to them how DPS got here, to explain to them the city's finances, to explain to them how things got to the way they are, because some people are simple-minded. They're going to believe whatever little rumor you done told them about, these people stole this money, or them people, they were crooked, and look at what Kwame did, and then that's how they're going to hinge their support or non-support of an issue.
And it has nothing to do with that. And if you don't know the history of it, then you can't represent.
Nope.
You cannot do it. So it is serious, everybody. Audience, please show up on Wednesday. Please show up on Wednesday. It is critical that you voice your opinion. And if you can't show up, go to the website and put your input on the website to the commission. Let them know that what you are not happy about. Please let them know that you're not happy about it. Be very specific. Go read Ed Cipolis' article. He's got some very specific things you can talk about. Listen to what Harvey just said. There's some very specific things you can talk about that makes you unhappy about this decision that they're making on how to draw these lines and how to split up Detroit. If it stays this way, Detroit may never have another person that represents Detroit's issues.
Let me tell you, I looked at the house map and I was confused. I thought I was looking at a jigsaw puzzle. You know how you go to the dollar store and they got the jigsaw puzzle of a nice scene, and then you open it up, it's 500 pieces. You get this looks like a jigsaw puzzle. I couldn't understand how they drew these maps. You got my neighborhood that goes from Warrendale all the way out to Livonia.
Oh my.
They got Rose Grandma that goes all the way out to Livonia. Then they got one district that goes off to Farmington Hills. I'm like, what madness is this?
Wow.
Look, I was one that 10 years ago was the outlier, and I was beat over the head by my colleagues as I told them, you know what we need to do is we're losing population. Go down to, instead of 5 Senate seats, go down to 4. Just bite the bullet now, because 10 years from now, we're not going to gain population. Nothing at that time said we were going to gain population. Mm-hmm. Not your birth rates, not your death rates, not your housing starts. You looked at the demolition. The demolition was high. We weren't building new homes. And that pattern continued. I said, drop the 5th seat. Tupac Hunter is going to be term limited out. We can work it that way. Just get 4 seats. Because next time around, they're going to come after another seat. Well, I would have just said, look, if that's just go down to 3 seats now, and then let's cover it up that way. That way we can just have 3 Detroit-based senators that can solely focus on our issues.
Yeah. We've got some trouble on our hands. We've got to find a way out of this. And there is a way out. I just firmly believe we can find a way out of this. Clearly, as I think one of the speakers last night said, we need to file the lawsuits now.
Oh, they're coming.
Go ahead and file the lawsuits now. And make sure the commission knows we're filing the lawsuits because they're doing dumb stuff.
Listen, I talked to a very high-placed, highly resourced Republican this morning, and he told me, oh, we're coming after the lawsuit. Now, it won't be on behalf of your plaintiffs, but we're coming with a lawsuit. So these maps, I don't see.
Happy with them. I don't know who's and I always tell people it matters who your consultant is.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure the consultant understands your area, and the consultants, I think, are doing something that the consultants want, not what's good for the communities.
Well, you hire a consultant to assist you in the decision-making process. Ultimately, you decide whether or not to take that person's information. And one of the commissioners has already said, I don't think you're giving us the best information. Well, dummy, why are you listening to him? Fire him. Get rid of him.
Exactly.
Chase him off the project. Draw. You should know how to do it.
Yes. Yes. There are lots of people who know how to do this and do it right. Yes. Yes. I want to thank you, Senator Santana, or Mr. Harvey Santana. I almost called you Senator Santana.
I predict that we will probably be dealing with this well past December because the lawsuit is going to take several weeks to go through the courts. And we may very well end up with saying, okay, we don't agree with any of these maps. They'll appoint one person to draw.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Senator Harvey Santana. We appreciate you. Always good to talk to you. Always good to hear your perspective. You're down to earth, good, making sense logic. Everybody, make sure you go be ready for these meetings on Wednesday on redistricting. Don't let this slide by. Please get involved in it. Thank you for being with us today. As always, we appreciate you. Next Monday is the fourth Monday. And what's the fourth Monday? Sheriff's Monday. So look forward to hearing from Sheriff Raphael Washington on what's going on in the Wayne County Sheriff's Department. Have a great week. We'll see you next Monday. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Community Bell with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner Edna Bell. This broadcast was brought to you by WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, tell a friend to tune in. We'll see you next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern to the Community Bell Show, right here on WVTC Radio Detroit. You're listening to WVTC Gospel Radio Detroit,